These theories will make you question everything. So remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let's check them out.
Did you know that if you bury a loved one in your backyard, that your house now is zoned as a cemetery and you no longer owe property taxes, as well as you're no longer part of any HOA or any government anything? Your house is a write-off. It's tax-free on any upgrades to your house, and they can never take your house after that. Generational wealth.
See, this is why you got to do your research and your follow-up, bro. You know what I mean? Because if you blindly go out here believing that everything everybody's saying to you, bro, and then you find out, now you got a whole body in your backyard that you done buried of your loved one, and they're like, well, in the state of such and such, we don't do that. That's technically okay. So the area that you did is now tax-free. So what you saying? My house is not now? No, sir. So make sure you do your due diligence and research before you run out here and start volunteering the next funeral and burial to be at your house in your backyard thinking that you're going to be tax-free at the end of this. All right? I know when y'all first heard about that from Trump, because that's where a lot of us heard about that from him doing it on one of his facilities or properties. Your antennas went up, as they should. You know what I mean? But it's just not that simple. You still need to figure out what that entails of before you just jump off the porch and think you got it, fam. You know what I mean?
It's actually very simple. Congress tried to enact an income tax in 1894. The Supreme Court said that's unconstitutional. When the Supreme Court says something is unconstitutional, it's unconstitutional. They tried again in 1913, and the Supreme Court said the 16th Amendment conferred no new power of taxation. So, if they didn't have it then, and they didn't get it, they don't have it. There is no constitutional basis for a tax on the wages of Americans living and working in the 50 states of the Union. Period. End of argument.
I have a letter here from Daniel Inouye's office out of the United States Senate that says, based on the research performed by the Congressional Research Service, there is no provisions which specifically and unequivocally require an individual to pay an income tax. Period. End of story. There is no law, and to date, nobody has been able to show that there is a law.
It's actually very simple.
But, or what country are they talking about? They darn sure ain't talking about here. Bro, could you imagine? Can you imagine? And I almost want to drool. You know how it is when you see a steak, you know what I mean? And your mouth start watering up. Could you imagine not having to pay taxes? Thinking about, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, could you imagine having your whole salary, the work you do, you actually make all the money from it? You don't have somebody coming in and saying, okay, I want half or 30% or whatever it is. Can you imagine that? Man, and I remember hearing that as a kid. No new taxes. No more taxes. That never happened. Sorry. Never happened, bro. False hope.
This is how many times your money is taxed. You know, right off the top of my head, it's probably more than this, but let's just run into it. Let's say you work for a business owner, like a small business owner. Well, that business owner pays tax to the state and federal taxes to operate just the business, just to operate. They also pay taxes on the supplies that they buy, the waste they destroy, the transportation for their businesses to stay afloat and for shipping. Then they pay taxes on whatever they sell. Then the employee, when it's paid, pays taxes on its paycheck in several different ways. 3 of those ways are federal, state, and Social Security. They even pay taxes on the amount of tax credits they got the previous year. They pay a fee to have their check deposited into the bank or just cash. And then they have to pay 5 to 10% sales tax when they go to buy food or clothing or any necessity. Taxes on transportation, not just gas, but also the tag. You have to pay for the car, the sales tax of the car, times however many cars you have. Plus the tax on the insurance that you get. Taxes on your phone bill, gas, water, electric, even your waste. And if you put your money into a savings account, you have to pay taxes if you take it out. If your children inherit that money, they have to pay loads of taxes when they take on that money. Or if they inherit a house, they have to pay taxes on that house. Loads of money. And the child is taxed again when it inherits this money and it goes out and buys things for the house, or, clothing and food and other necessities and gas and water and waste and electricity. Again, this is designed this way, first of all, to create some kind of system out of chaos. That's what people love to say is what, people that rule this world do. And also it's the symbolism of the cabal, where it's, the snake eating its tail. And that's just one of those huge symbols that are in the cabal. And it's just like, it's a never ending cycle. And it's like, you keep paying taxes on taxes on taxes. Like, how do we ever end up with any money at the end of the month? The system is literally rigged against us. TikTok, this is for educational purposes only. But follow for more if you can, as long as you can.
I thought she was done. Now she's done. But did she not hit the nail on the head? We're taxed upon taxed upon taxed on more taxes, but you got to pay those taxes and also pay these taxes and these taxes. Don't forget about those taxes and these taxes, all these taxes and taxes and taxes and more taxes, bro. Like, are you kidding? It feels like it's designed to keep you here or down here. Because the more you try to pull yourself up, the more you're being pushed down by how many taxes on different things you have to pay. So it's important to figure out and navigate yourself around that, bro, or we will always be at the bottom, to which sometimes I feel like that's where it's designed to keep us. It's designed to keep us that way. Because it don't make sense. Did you just hear and stop and listen to her go through the tax after this tax and this tax? You got to pay that tax and this tax and on that tax. And you got to pay that out of your paycheck. And then you got to go to the store and pay more taxes. So why am I paying so much taxes? Crazy.
This is part 2 of the truth about federal income taxes. Now, if you started from part 2, I highly suggest that you go back and watch part 1, because I'm breaking down this fact-checking article on income taxes. So now I'm going to deal with this part where it says the power to enforce these tax laws have been delegated to the IRS. So let's go to more Supreme Court cases. And I'm going to be reading from the Supreme Court case Stone versus State of Mississippi. While taxation is, in general, necessary for the support of government, it is not part of the government itself. Government was not organized for the purposes of taxation, but taxation may be necessary for the purposes of government. As such, taxation becomes an incident to the exercise of legitimate functions of government, but nothing more. No government dependent on taxation for support can bargain away its whole power of taxation, for that would be substantially abdication. But hold up, isn't that exactly what they did when they granted the power to the IRS? An abdication is a failure to fulfill responsibility or a duty. So the IRS is acting as a governmental agency, which is not, and using misrepresentative means in order to get you to contract into being obligated to pay taxes. Because governments aren't allowed to force people into taxation. Book reference. And these are maxims dealing with government. The government cannot load a citizen with imposition against his will or consent. And that's why I had to break down non-positive law title, because everything is operating off of the consent of the people, but the people don't know they're giving their consent. Because these non-positive law titles can be rebutted, because as the definition of prima facie evidence states, it must be rebutted. Because again, assumptions, presumptions, and color of law. It can be rebutted by showing that the wording in the underlying statute is different. So that's why you need to go to Title 26 USC Section 61 and look up gross income defined, and 26 CFR Section 1.1-1 income tax on individuals. Because you're presuming that individuals apply to you, but if you read it, you see that none of it applies to you. And why? Because it's non-positive law. But here's how they get you. Because if you go down, it states, citizens or residents of the United States liable to tax. In general, all citizens of the United States, wherever resident, and all resident alien individuals are liable to the income taxes imposed by the code whenever the income tax is received from sources within or without the United States. And it states who is a citizen. Every person born or naturalized in the United States and subject to its jurisdiction is a citizen. Shameless book plug, book reference. We know that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and other state wherein they reside, aka a 14th Amendment citizen. And 14th Amendment U.S. citizens are in the state of corporate citizenship, which is corporate status in the state of incorporation. And indirect taxes on corporate citizens are a tax upon a right or privilege or corporate franchise. And since you're in the state of corporate citizenship and have residence, which is a legal term that means the place where a corporation or other enterprise does business or is registered to do business, that is how and why they get you to contract to pay taxes to a foreign entity. This is part 2 of the...
Bro, the way he's breaking this down, fam, is he a lawyer? And how do I get this book before it's stricken or removed from the shelves? You know what I'm saying? How do we get this book, bro? He is eloquently breaking this down. Now, mind you, make sure you thoroughly, before you go start saying, well, I ain't got to do this or I ain't got to do that. This says this. Make sure you cross all your T's, dot all your I's, and cross all your I's and dot all your T's, fam. I'm telling you, because we know some people that tried to evade tax. A lot of celebrities you read about and heard about in the news. Wesley Snipes, maybe, was it back in the day? Was it him? That left, tried to evade. They gonna get you. They gonna get you. So, you know what I mean? I'm saying we figure this out together. We take a stand. You want us to all come together? Let us come together and figure out how to not pay tax. That'll bring a lot of people together in this country, man, in this world. People who are paying taxes in other countries. Man, we all figure out a way. Shoot, y'all want to form a book club and get this book and start a book club? This should be our first book we read and figure out. Agreed.
Those in power have a big secret. Paying tax is optional. Registering a vehicle is optional. Paying a fine is optional. Attending a court is optional. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. Surprised? Well, try this one on for size. Every mortgage and loan is fully repaid from day one. You can pay it again if you want to, but you don't have to. If nobody has told you that you have a straw man, then this could be a very interesting experience for you. Your straw man was created when you were very, very young, far too young to know anything about it, but then it was meant to be a secret, as its purpose is to swindle you, and it has been used very effectively to do just that ever since it was created. Meet your straw man.
Oh, that sounds good, fam. I just don't want to be in a jail cell talking about, you know what, I should have just paid my taxes, man. I should have just, you know what? You know what I mean? I wouldn't be in this cell talking about, man, somebody bail me out or put some money on my books because I ain't paid my taxes. You know what I mean? So let's not just take the first thing we hear and run with it and talk about, oh, I ain't paying them. Nah, I'm not paying this. No, don't do that.
There was a convicted tax protester. His name was Edward Lewis Brown. He charged that law enforcement officials who surrounded his property in a standoff over his refusal to surrender after his conviction were part of a Zionist Illuminati Freemason movement, and that the federal government had no jurisdiction in New Hampshire. Brown believed the IRS and the federal government tax are part of a deliberate plot perpetrated by Freemasons to control the American people and eventually the world. Dude didn't want to pay his taxes. He did an interview in February of 2007 on a radio show. He said, "I'm not quite sure you understand the ramifications of what's going on right now. This is massive. This is international. We are fed up with the Zionist Illuminati. That's what this is about. Loud and clear. Zionist Illuminati. Lawyers, whatever they are. Okay, it's going to stop. And if this judge is a member of that, I know that McAuliffe, that's the judge, is. I know that U.S. Attorney Colawanto is. They better stop. This is a
I don't want to pay my taxes neither. At all. You know what I'm saying? So I don't blame them, fam. We need to figure it out. No. Don't show up at my property. And if I find out that you're involved in some type of, whatever type of conspiracy hey, whatever we got to do. Just how people be like, okay, so tell me this so I ain't got to go to work in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Tell me this so I ain't got to pay my tax no more. Fam, no. And everybody who talking about, oh, but you pay your taxes. They take it. We don't do it willingly. They take it, fam. They take it.
What's a conspiracy theory that you 1,000% believe in?
The government's still collecting taxes on your even after you're dead. Because if you buy a house and you die, then your kids have to pay money, called an inheritance tax, to get your stuff. And if they can't afford to pay it, then they have to sell it and then give the government money on that same stuff. So you're still paying with your by them selling yours after you're dead.
What's a
How is this right? How is this legal? You want to call out, like I said, I keep referencing the mob. You want to call out them for doing what they're doing? How is this not the biggest fraudulent scam there is? How? How? We're screaming at the top of the mountaintop, man. How? You're gonna tax me when I'm gone? You're gonna tax my stuff while I'm gone? Stuff that I'm leaving to my kids, you're gonna tax that too? And then if they can't do nothing with it, you're gonna force them to sell it, and the money they get, you're gonna ask for money off of that too? Like, bro, it gets me heated, fam. Like, my hands go to shaking, bro. I start getting clumsy thinking about it. It don't make sense. It don't. You work hard for your money, don't you? I work hard for mine. So what gives someone the right to come step right in and say, you're almost done. Your check is almost here. All right, check is here. Hold on, before you get it, let me get mine off the top real quick. What do you mean let you get yours off the top? You wasn't doing that back-breaking work I was doing. You know when it used to really make me mad, fam? Is when I would spend all week, when I used to work in like a warehouse, and I would work unloading the trailer myself by hand. Back when it used to be those little DVD players, which would fill up a truck from the front to the back, and you would have to put them on this tier and stack them a certain way for Walmart distribution. And they wouldn't let you use the clamp that was on the dock. So you would have to do this by hand, or maybe back when there was those fat back 32-inch TVs. Go home at night, the soot from the back of the trailer is in your nose, so when you blow your nose, it's all black, smutty black. It's all you breathing all this stuff in. You could put the little mask on, but that only lasted so long. And then you go home, you pass out on the bed, tired, back hurting, and gotta wake up and do it again the next day. And then when I get my check from doing all that back breaking work, you say, hold up, wait a minute, me first. And that used to irk me to death, bro. That's why certain people don't want to work. For what? You playing me, so why don't I play the system? We get mad at people for playing the system, but they like, hey, they playing us.
Morning. Taxes in England and how we get conned as the British public. Simple. Say you earn on average £500 a week. If you take off 20%, that's £100. You get £400 a week after tax. But if we try and add that 20% back on, we're only actually getting £80. This is why they'll try and con you into thinking you're earning more and then taking less tax off you. But in theory, it's the opposite way around. Let me just show you another way of doing it. So £500, we take away the 20%, which as we know, but like we've already seen, if we add the 20%, it's only £80. Watch this. If we plus 25%, takes you back to your 500. So in theory, you're actually getting stopped 25% tax. Morning.
His math was a little questionable, you know what I mean? But I get the premise on what he's saying, you know what I mean? I respect it, fam. You know, everybody's calculations when it comes to taxes is never quite right. You know what I mean? You think you're getting taxed this, and then you get your check and you're like, what? Carry the one? Nah, fam. Remember the times when you first get your check, when you first started working, and you got it, and then you went back to your employer and you was like, nah, something wrong. Something ain't right. I'm I done calculated because you spent the whole first several days, a week, so however long it took for you to get your first check, calculating what you was gonna get. You calculated that thing to a T, and then you get it, and you like, oh no, something ain't right. Y'all missing some hours or something like that. Y'all got the right amount of hours on here? And they look and they say, yeah, you worked 40 hours, 3 hours overtime. It's all there. But when I calculated it, it said this. Yeah, but you forgot about this, and this. And then you gotta have insurance. Take that out. You get this. Bro, you feel this big after you get your first check, bro. I'll never forget it, fam. Working at the dollar store. Got that little check and I was like, just destroyed my whole weekend, fam. My whole weekend. I thought I was getting this. I done worked hard. I was being a good employee up to that point. After that, I started feeling like I should only do the amount of work I'm gonna really get paid for. I'm not doing all this extra. No, thank you. No, sir, no, ma'am. You know what I mean? No, sir, no, ma'am. Listen, man, y'all get at me in the we're gonna cut it right here. Y'all get at me in the comment section. Let me know what you thought of this video, man. I know it gets to me too, and I know this is one. So y'all put your comments in the comment section. Till the next one, I'm gone, man.